Which siding is best for Colorado homes? James Hardie fiber cement siding, LP SmartSide engineered wood siding, or vinyl siding. Which one belongs on your Colorado home? If you're staying in the house long-term and you want the best performing siding for the Front Range of Colorado in terms of hail, UV, temperature swings, and even fire risk, the answer is James Hardie fiber cement siding. That's what we install most, and there are real reasons for that, which I'll show you in this video. But James Hardie siding isn't the right call for absolutely every situation. LP SmartSide engineered wood siding is a legitimate alternative at a lower installed cost, and vinyl siding has a place for budget-driven projects. I'm gonna walk you through all three honestly, what each one actually is and how they perform differently in Colorado, what they cost installed, and when each one makes actual sense. The product you select and how well it's installed will determine how your home performs over the next 20 to 30 years. And this guide focuses on three most common siding materials on the Colorado Front Range. I'll also cover what installation quality actually looks like and how to evaluate a contractor you're trusting to do the work. Because the wrong contractor is more expensive as a mistake than the wrong siding material. I'm Patrick with WestPro Home Exteriors in Longmont, Colorado, and we're a James Hardie Elite Preferred Contractor, which is the highest certification level that Hardie offers. We do primarily install James Hardie siding, but we will want to tell you when a product is not right for your situation, including our own primary products. That way you have the information to decide what works best for you, your home, and your situation. Fiber cement siding is a manufactured building material made from a mixture of cement, sand, and cellulose wood fiber. It's formed under heat and pressure into planks, panels, and even trim boards designed to look like natural wood without the rot, pest, and moisture vulnerabilities of real wood. So fiber cement is dimensionally stable and non-combustible, so it doesn't catch on fire. In Colorado, where wildfire risk is real for homeowners along the Front Range, foothills, and all over the Colorado mountains, non-combustibility is a meaningful factor. It's not just a marketing bullet point. Insurance carriers in high fire risk zones are increasingly aware of the difference between combustible and non-combustible siding. All right, let's talk about a couple of features of fiber cement siding. First one is fire resistance. It's a non-combustible product. So if you're in Boulder, Golden, Estes Park, anywhere along the Front Range, Colorado, wildfire interface, this obviously matters. You already know this matters. Next, hail resistance. Hail resistance on fiber cement siding is very good. James Hardie fiber cement siding does not dent, in our experience, under hail impact the same way vinyl siding does or engineered wood does. Next factor is dimensional stability. It's excellent. It's a very stable product. So fiber cement barely moves with the temperature changes. If you live here and you're on the Front Range, you know that we can go from single digits to 60 degrees in the same week. That means fewer gaps and joints that open from that expansion and contraction over time. Next factor is moisture resistance. Again, an excellent track record. So provided that cut edges are back primed and sealed per the manufacturer spec during the installation, we won't get that moisture absorbing into the side of the product. The next factor is maintenance. It's low to moderate with fiber cement siding. So with James Hardie ColorPlus siding with a factory applied finish, it doesn't require any painting after the installation. James Hardie Prime siding requires field painting after installation and repainting every 10 to 15 years. In our experience, we're getting pretty long paint cycles even on a primed product. Let's talk warranty. James Hardie carries a 30-year limited transferable product warranty. ColorPlus with the finish adds a 15-year factory finish warranty. The installed cost on a typical average 2,000 square foot home in Colorado, which typically has about 1,600 square feet of actual siding area, it's about $18.75 to $21.25 per square foot for James Hardie Prime siding. So that's $30,000 to $34,000 total on average. ColorPlus adds $1.25 to $1.60 per square foot, roughly 32 grand to 36 grand applied to that average home. So why do we use James Hardie specifically? James Hardie is the most widely installed fiber cement siding in the United States. Their installation requirements are very detailed and clearly enforced. Their warranty program is among the strongest in the category, and their ColorPlus factory finish, which is a kiln-baked color system applied under controlled conditions in the factory, does outperform field-painted fiber cement in both color retention and surface durability. As contractors in the area, we see and observe this consistently in the field, and it's backed by Hardie's 15-year finish warranty. We're proud to say that WestPro is a James Hardie Elite Preferred Contractor, and it's the highest certification level that Hardie offers. I want to be clear, this certification is not required for a full Hardie warranty to apply to your installation. However, if your contractor is not certified at a higher level, they haven't necessarily demonstrated a track record of installing James Hardie siding in accordance with the specifications, which means your warranty could be compromised if that installation is done incorrectly. Okay, so what is engineered wood siding? And in this example, LP, or Louisiana Pacific SmartSide. LP SmartSide is an engineered wood composite. So it's wood strands and fibers bonded with resins, glues, and treated with a proprietary SmartGuard process for resistance to moisture, fungal decay, and impact. It is lighter than fiber cement, certainly easier to work with, and carries a 50-year limited warranty. Let's go through the factors and features. Fire resistance, it is combustible. It's made of wood. It's treated, but combustible. If you're in a fire zone along the Front Range, that distinction certainly matters. Okay, as far as hail resistance, I'm gonna give it a pretty good. It does have pretty good impact resistance when hail's contacting the actual field pieces of siding. And in that case, it's pretty on par with fiber cement for those direct impacts. However, we do see some damage that occurs on these trim pieces that protrude out from the siding, where this edge right here can be vulnerable to hail damage. For dimensional stability, pretty good, certainly better than vinyl, but not quite as stable as fiber cement. As far as moisture resistance, it can be good with correct detailing. LP SmartSide performs well in Colorado's climate only when all the penetrations and the joints are correctly detailed. Without that specific detailing in the installation, keep in mind, it's still a wood-based product and it can absorb moisture. As far as maintenance, we're gonna say moderate. It does require field painting if it's primed, or it can come pre-finished from the factory. Like James Hardie primed, unpainted LP SmartSide siding is not a finished installation. It must be painted or it will fail prematurely. For the warranty, it is technically a 50-year limited warranty. Now on paper, that is longer than Hardie's 30-year warranty, but you should do a deep dive on actual warranty coverage to understand the real differences. If we apply installed cost on our same Colorado home for LP engineered wood siding, you're looking at around $17 to $20 per square foot for LP SmartSide primed siding. So on that average home, it's about $27,200 to $32,000 total. So the factory pre-finished option, again, adds roughly $1 to $1.50 per square foot, which would bring you to a total of $28,800 to $33,600 applied to the average home. LP SmartSide siding can be a legitimate alternative to James Hardie siding for homeowners in Colorado who are prioritizing ease of cutting and installation and prefer a lower installed cost, provided it's correctly detailed at all penetrations and joints. Proper installation definitely matters here. The price gap on a typical Front Range project is $3,000 to $6,000 below what James Hardie siding is gonna cost. So whether that gap justifies the difference in terms of fire resistance, dimensional stability, and how much you care about the long-term track record is a decision that depends on your home's location, what your risk profile looks like. And the last factor is, how long you plan to stay in your home. All right, what about vinyl siding? Is it right for my Colorado home? Standard vinyl siding is PVC plastic. Certainly a lower cost, but lower performance, and not the right choice for every Colorado home. It dents or cracks under hail impact frequently. It expands and contracts significantly with temperature swings, which Colorado has in abundance, and it's combustible. It melts easily and of course can catch on fire. Now, that's a meaningful concern in fire risk zones. Also, don't put your grill close to it. That's an issue we've seen on more than one occasion. The installed cost on our Colorado home is $14.50 to $17 per square foot. Applied to the average home, that's $23,200 to $27,200 total. So that said, vinyl siding does have its place. So for budget constrained projects that happen to be in lower risk fire areas where the hail exposure is moderate or you're okay with that, and the long-term ownership and cost of ownership is not the top priority, vinyl siding is technically a functional product if it's allowed in your area. On premium vinyl composites, which are unique products like All-Side Ascend, these are co-extruded polymer composites. They're not standard PVC vinyl. They carry meaningfully better dimensional stability and impact resistance. So they're not to be closely compared with vinyl, and they occupy the upper end of the vinyl price range, sometimes even overlapping and being more expensive than LP SmartSide siding pricing. If a contractor is proposing vinyl siding, ask specifically which product, because there's some variability here. The performance difference between standard vinyl and a premium composite is very significant. Let's talk James Hardie primed versus ColorPlus siding. If you go with James Hardie siding, you're choosing between two finishes, regardless of texture. So James Hardie prime siding is delivered ready for field painting, and you need to paint it after you install it. There's no manufacturer finish warranty because they didn't paint it, you are. And the finish depends entirely on your painter and the conditions on your painting day, how well it was prepped, etc. Compare that with James Hardie ColorPlus siding, which uses ColorPlus technology, which is a factory applied, kiln baked color finish. And it's applied under controlled conditions in their factory. It does not require painting, besides a little bit of touch up. It carries a 15-year finish warranty directly from James Hardie, so from the manufacturer. Now, people ask, what's the difference? The installed price premium is approximately $1.25 to $1.60 per square foot when we compare primed versus ColorPlus. So on a typical Colorado home, that's roughly $2,000 to $2,500 more to get into ColorPlus. But there's a long-term value. Primed has a lower upfront cost as far as just the cost of the siding, but repainting a 2,000 square foot home, along the Colorado Front Range, is gonna be around $8,000 to $15,000, right? And that's every 10 to 15 years if you're keeping up with things. So ColorPlus has a higher upfront cost, but it eliminates the repainting variable. ColorPlus is the right choice for most Colorado homeowners. It's the best long-term value for most situations. Primed makes sense for specific color match needs that aren't available in ColorPlus, or for budget first priorities where the $2,000 matters more than long-term savings. In that example, maybe you want to paint your house yourself or something like that. James Hardie siding profiles and installed pricing. In other words, what are your options for new siding and what do they cost? Once you've chosen James Hardie siding, the next decision is profile, and it affects your installed cost more than most homeowners expect. Okay, so we're gonna apply all of these examples for siding options to the same average Colorado home. It assumes 2,000 square feet in the home, 1,600 square feet of actual siding area, 490 lineal feet of 3.5 inch Hardie trim in primed with a prime finish. And it also assumes standard access, meaning guys can work around your home. And this applies to Colorado in 2026. So ColorPlus adds $1.25 to $1.60 per square foot to any of the examples, okay? So this is our Hardie plank, 8.25 inch at a 7-inch exposure, $19.15 per square foot installed, $30,640 in total applied to the average home. So that's gonna be our baseline. It's our most common profile and assumes standard labor. We compare that with Hardie plank 5.25 inch, which has a 4-inch exposure. That's the section you actually see, $23.50 to $26 per square foot. That's $37,600 to $41,600 total. Now that's a 29% increase over our baseline. So why the jump? 75% more courses of siding are required to cover the same wall because they're smaller, okay? So the material cost is gonna increase roughly 23% because we need more pieces, and the installation labor increases 40 to 60% because we're handling, fitting, and cutting many more pieces of siding to cover the same wall area. Let's talk about board and batten. Board and batten, Hardie panel with a 2.5 inch Hardie trim batten strip. That's gonna be $20.50 to $23 per square foot, $32,800 to $36,800 total installed cost. That's a 13% increase. There's more trim detail, some moderate labor increases for handling the panels, which are much larger than this example. Next is Hardie shingle, $32.50 to $36 per square foot. That's $52,000 to $57,600 for a whole house. Now that is a 78% increase over our baseline, but Hardie shingle is rarely installed on a whole house. When it is, it looks pretty great, but typical applications are 150 to 300 square feet for an accent area. That could be a gable end, a dormer, or even a feature wall around your front door. That's typically how we see it installed because of that increased per square foot cost. So if a siding bid shows 4-inch exposure, priced at the same per square foot rate as standard 7-inch exposure, that contractor either hasn't done the math or isn't sharing it with you because there's real price differences between the installation of these products. Siding installation mistakes that can cause early failure of your siding system. Most siding failures are not material failures. They are installation failures. These are choices that were made during the installation that don't actually show up for 3 to 7 years, but cost far more to repair than the original shortcut saved. These are the most common failures we identify when replacing old siding on Front Range Colorado homes. Number 1, is missing or improper butt joint flashing and Z flashing. Z flashing must be installed above every window and door, any mounting block, or any horizontal trim. Butt joints require proper flashing anywhere where one piece of siding is contacting the other horizontally. When it's skipped, water runs directly behind the siding at those points, leading to rotted sheathing, mold, and even interior water damage. This is the single most common and most expensive failure point we see, and we see it on Colorado homes every single day. Number 2, missing or improper mounting blocks at penetrations. So the exterior lights, hose bibs, outlets, dryer vents, and other penetrations, they do need a proper mounting block in order to create a weather-tight seal. And without it, each penetration becomes a direct water entry point. It's a point of vulnerability in the siding system, and one that's nearly invisible from the street. Number 3 is mixing incompatible materials. So installing wood fiber trim with fiber cement siding, this one's super common, or any combination of materials with different expansion, contraction, and moisture characteristics. Any combination of materials with different expansion, contraction, and moisture characteristics, it creates a failure point at every transition between those two products. Materials in a siding system need to behave similarly. They need to move together. When they don't, joints can open up, moisture can enter, and the failure occurs exactly where the materials meet. Number 4, using non-breathable house wrap. House wrap is supposed to be vapor permeable. It blocks bulk water entry from outside while allowing moisture that gets behind the siding to escape outward. Non-breathable products, although they seem very waterproof, they trap moisture in the wall assembly, which accelerates rot and mold from the inside out. Ask your contractor what product they use and confirm it's actually appropriate. Number 5, face nailing where blind nailing is required. James Hardie siding and LP SmartSide siding are designed to be blind nailed. Face nailing voids manufacturer warranties, and it leaves exposed fastener points that rust and allow moisture entry. To me, that's a signal that speed was prioritized over the correct installation. Number 6, improper flashing clearances. Both Hardie and LP SmartSide, they specify minimum clearances between the siding and grade, the siding and roof lines, decking, if you have a back deck or a front deck, and other surfaces. When not maintained, so if we don't maintain those clearances, the bottom courses of siding and trim absorb moisture and deteriorate prematurely. Particularly common where siding meets roof lines. We see this as a roofing and siding contractor almost every single day. So particularly common where siding meets roof lines, step flashing, and deck ledgers. Number 7, caulking not consistent with the installation specification. So both of these manufacturers publish very specific caulking requirements. So when it's missed at required locations or it's applied in the wrong locations, every penetration, butt joint, trim intersection, it has to be treated according to the manufacturer specifications. Really simply, there's certain areas where you need it and there's certain areas where you definitely don't want it. So this shouldn't be done at the installer's discretion. Ask any contractor you're evaluating how they specifically handle each of these. A contractor who can answer clearly has actually thought about them and probably knows their specifications. A contractor who can't, that should be a concern. Because again, this shouldn't be up to the installer. These specifications are written down by the manufacturer. How to choose a siding contractor in Colorado? This is a question that's near and dear to my heart. So the first thing to understand is the right material installed incorrectly will fail. The wrong contractor is a much more expensive mistake than selecting the wrong product. So here's how to evaluate who you're actually hiring. Questions like, are you a certified installer for the product you're proposing? It's not a guarantee that they're going to do a good job, but like we said before, it's not a requirement, but it can be an indication of a successful track record. Do your installation crews carry workers' compensation insurance? It's perfectly appropriate to request certificates of insurance from a contractor. In my mind, if you're worried, don't think of it as an optional thing. So uninsured crews on your property, they do create a liability for you. It's common in the siding industry for contractors to use subcontracted installation crews with little or no workers' comp coverage. They do that to reduce the bid price because it reduces the cost. However, that can transfer injury liability directly to you, the homeowner. How do you handle sheathing discoveries? So sheathing condition, which is, keep in mind, sheathing is the wood behind your siding, cannot be known without actually opening walls and removing the siding. A contractor with a clear, defined process for identifying and communicating sheathing issues to you before the work starts is a contractor who has dealt with this before. How are roof tie-in areas detailed? Where siding meets the roof lines, specific flashing corrections are required. Ask your contractor how those are handled. What is your labor warranty or workmanship warranty? And what does it actually cover? Get it in writing. Understand what it covers and for how long and how those situations are handled. A professional siding proposal does not need to be a wildly detailed line item spreadsheet. Experienced contractors present complete scope of work for a siding job, typically in a clean total, because there's so many details that go into that. What really matters here is that a contractor can clearly answer the questions above and that the contract reflects those answers in writing. On an average or standard 2,000 square foot Front Range Colorado home, bids from legitimate professional contractors can typically vary by $3,000 to even $6,000. A gap significantly larger than this almost always means that the bids do not cover the same scope of work and they're not truly comparable. Okay, I'm gonna talk about our pre-construction process. Before starting any project, we conduct a pre-construction meeting at your home. What we're doing is remeasuring, confirming the actual scope in person, and performing a core test. So we drill a small hole to examine sheathing material and the condition of that sheathing before any siding is actually removed. So if the core test reveals a problem, i.e. we discover a major sheathing problem, we can address it in a change order before the work begins. That way you can see the full picture before you're fully committed. And by committed, I mean all the siding is torn off your house and in a dumpster. One time we discovered during that core test process that an entire home had fiberboard sheathing. It's not suitable for James Hardie siding installation, and it always gonna have to be replaced. So we did disclose this before starting to the homeowner, and he agreed to delay the project and completed the work when the homeowner was actually ready. This actually saved him thousands by waiting for sheathing costs to normalize. This happened to be during COVID, but it's a good example illustrating that pre-construction process and how it can benefit you as a homeowner. My recommendation is to ask any contractor you're evaluating how they handle sheathing discoveries. When does that occur? How do they deal with it? What's going to be required from you? The answer tells you a great deal about just how they operate in general. For a full comparison guide with a complete material chart and all the contractor evaluation criteria, it's on our website. There's a link in the description. These are the frequently asked questions that we get from homeowners regarding siding comparison. Here's common questions with quick answers. Is James Hardie siding worth the extra cost over vinyl siding? For most Front Range Colorado homeowners, yes. Particularly those staying 10 or more years or in fire risk areas. So James Hardie fiber cement siding is non-combustible. Remember, it's dimensionally stable. So in Colorado's temperature swings, it's not going to dent as easily under hail impact the way that standard vinyl siding would. The premium or the extra cost reflects real performance differences. So on a typical Colorado home, the price gap is roughly $7,000 to $9,000. James Hardie prime siding at $18.75 to $21.25 per square foot installed, versus vinyl siding at $14.50 to $17 per square foot. How long does James Hardie siding last? James Hardie carries a 30-year limited transferable product warranty. The ColorPlus pre-painted finish carries a 15-year finish warranty. Real-world lifespan on a properly installed James Hardie siding exceeds 30 years in most Colorado climates. The key phrase here is properly installed. What siding is the best for hail in Colorado? So both James Hardie fiber cement siding and LP SmartSide engineered wood siding outperform standard vinyl siding in hail resistance. Ask specifically about impact resistant ratings and FM factory mutual 4473 testing. Some insurance carriers do offer premium discounts for impact rated products in Colorado homes. What is the difference between James Hardie primed and ColorPlus siding? Primed is delivered ready for field painting. ColorPlus is factory applied under controlled conditions and carries its own 15-year finish warranty. The installed price difference between these two is approximately $1.25 to $1.60 per square foot to account for paint costs. For most homeowners, ColorPlus is a better long-term value. It eliminates paint quality and repainting costs as variables basically entirely. How do I know if my sheathing, the wood underneath my siding, needs to be replaced? You typically cannot know without some invasive testing. Visible signs include soft spots in the wall, siding that moves when pressed, and interior water stains near exterior walls. The most reliable method is just a core test before the work begins, which is standard in our pre-construction process. Can I install siding over my existing siding and avoid tearing the old siding off? In most cases, no. Installing over existing siding traps moisture, adds weight to the wall, prevents sheathing and house wrap inspection, and typically voids manufacturer warranties. There's a handful of exceptions to this, but generally the answer is no. Full tear off is the correct approach for a quality installation as a rule of thumb. Does homeowners insurance cover siding replacement in Colorado? Hail and wind damage is commonly covered in Colorado. That's going to be subject to your deductible and the terms and conditions of your actual insurance policy. Age or wear-related replacement is not covered. Document storm damage carefully before you actually file a claim if you expect your insurance company to pay for your new siding. Does siding increase home value? Siding replacement consistently ranks among the higher ROI exterior remodeling projects. Fiber cement carries particularly strong resale value because buyers tend to recognize the material and they know that there's a reduced maintenance burden. I'm Patrick with WestPro Home Exteriors in Longmont, Colorado. There's a full comparison guide with the material chart and pricing tables that we talked about today, and it's on our website. There's a link in the description. For the full siding replacement cost breakdown with every number, watch our siding replacement cost video, which is also linked below. Subscribe if you want the same treatment for roofing, windows, and even gutters. Thank you guys for watching.